Hello, my name is Allison Merker Garner, and I am the author of Musical Minds Music Curriculum, and this is Volume 3, Late Renaissance and Baroque Style. So it looks like this. It's a 4-book set, and I will be using 3 of the books for this class. The 4th book is a chamber book, which I will not use in this class. I will refer to it. But the books that I will use are the reading book, the textbook, and the resource book. The textbook is a history through art and dance and music, has musical excerpts within the context, embedded in the text. And those excerpts are in full score form in the reading book. So if you want to read through the whole segment of that piece while you're listening to it or while you're reading it, or you want to study it for the things that we talked about in the textbook, you can highlight certain examples that we go over. It's more of your workbook. The resource book puts the history and the excerpt that you've read into a broader context of style, what the culture was at that time and what the performance practice was at that time, and what the aesthetic sense was at that time, what was thought of as ideal or beautiful or extraordinary in making music. So we have improvisation, we have simple cadences and bass lines in the Baroque book, and we have folk tunes and compositions that represent the style period. So it can be used as a performance book in the back. Those compositions, some of them are solo pieces and some of them are not. They're more chamber music. The chamber book is for performance. It has 8 pieces in it of varying level difficulty, and it has flexible instrumentation, so it can accommodate just about any violin, viola, cello, piano combination. Most of the piano music is written with one hand, because I think that the pianists have a hard job with all the notes that they're trying to read to be able to keep up that way and be able to actually participate as a chamber musician. And I'm emphasizing being a chamber musician over being a technical pianist in these books. I want them developing as musicians and not being tangled up with all the notes they have to play. So most of them are written 2 ways, where they're 2 parts or an easy piano part where it's usually just one hand. And in the Baroque period, that's the bass line, so it also often doubles the cello part. So if you don't have a pianist or you don't have a cellist, the part is covered. So that is the chamber books. I do emphasize performance practice for that period. So if it's a piece that's from a masquerade, I give that background, and that it's a theater piece. It's designed to be played in a theatrical company, and there's a processional here, and this is what accompanies that. That kind of thing, so that it is put in the context of what it was designed for, what occasion it was meant to be played. So we're going to start with our class today, and if you've done any of my Musical Minds 1 and 2 books, you're familiar with some of the basic patterns, melodic patterns that we learned in those books. We sang them, and we read them, and we memorized them. So we're going to start out by reviewing some of those in case you have not done them, and then go from there and applying it to the volume 3 book. So here we go. We're going to start out with our do, so, do pattern that we've sung previously. Let's start on your G note. If you want to sing it first and then play it, that's perfectly fine. We're going to do it more than once. So we're going to start with G, go down to D, and back up to G. Again. Now let's play it on your instrument if you haven't already done that. And the do, so, do pattern is going from the tonic note, the home bass note G, down to our dominant or 5th note of the scale, and then back home again to tonic. So we're now using this pattern as a harmony and not just what we see and hear in music that has a melody that uses it. So let's do our G, D, G while I play the chords. Ready? Go. Good. Let's do that in C major. Here's your C note. We're going to go down to our dominant and back to our tonic. Ready? Go. Good. Let's do it in D major. Ready? Go. A major. Ready, go. F major. Let's find an F. Ready, go. And B flat major. B flat. Ready, play. So harmonically, we call this cadence a 1-5-1 cadence. We start on a tonic chord, we move to a dominant chord, and we end back on the tonic chord. It's the most basic of all the cadences. And to be able to play 1-5-1 chords in all keys is really helpful, especially if you're in a band or in some sort of group where you need to improvise a harmony. So we're going to now do another pattern that we have done in previous videos called the do-ti-do pattern. And we're going to start on G again. Now the interesting thing about this is we could respell the chords that we played in do, so, do and put them in a different order, but still play a 1-5-1 chord. But we're just switching and scrambling the notes a little bit so that it sounds maybe a little smoother. So here's your G, F sharp, G. Let's play that. Okay, let's try that in D. All right, ready, go. I didn't like that I was doing parallel motion there. Okay, so I changed it. Let's do A major. Okay, A, down to G sharp. F major. And then B flat major. those are just a few of the keys. Now we could do the same thing in minor and your notes wouldn't change. So if we did, let's say C major, C, B, C, it would still be C, B, C, whether we were in major or minor. So if I did this, right, still your C, B, C. So it doesn't change with major to minor or minor to major with this, with these patterns that we're doing. So once again, 1-5-1. Now some composers like to make more of their cadences. They like to make more of the rival back to tonic, and they grandstand this. One of the composers that comes to mind is Beethoven, who's not a Baroque composer. If you listen to some of his symphonies, he does 1-5-1s for pages and pages, and sometimes he sticks in a 4-chord or a 2-chord, and that has a subdominant function, and it gives it a little bit more of a substantial finality. So we're going to add a note to our so-do-so, our do-so-do, that pattern, and it goes like this. So here's your tonic. C was the 4th note in your C major scale. F. And then here's your dominant G, and back to C. Just play that by ear a few times. One, 4, 5, 1. 1, 4, 5, 1. Let's do that in a different key. Let's do it in G major. Okay, there's our do, and then so. So let's go down from that so and play the subdominant. Let's do it in minor. Doesn't change a thing. All right, let's do D. Let's do D major. So here's your pattern. Again. So 1-4-5-1 really is about as common as you see the 1-5-1, and sometimes they stick a 2 in there, which is a minor chord in a major key. That makes it a little bit more spicy, maybe a little more interesting. So instead of just a little different. So we're sticking with the 1-4-5-1 for our purposes today. So I'm going to play our 1-4-5-1 in G major. And I want you to play this melody with me. Let's try it. G, C, D, G. 1-4-5-1. with me. Let's try this rhythm. With me. Now choose your own rhythm. Ready, go. Another rhythm. One more time. So what if we wanted to add some new pitches in there? Well, when we were in Musical Minds 1 and 2, we were doing tetrachords, those 4-note patterns that go up a scale or go down a scale. And we did triads. And those are the best starts for exploring notes outside of the main ones that we're doing. And we are doing the main ones when we do. So if I wanted to explore that a little bit, it may sound like this. Just go down one note or up one note or even a third and back. And you are improvising a melody with notes. So let's do a few that I make up, and then you can do a few on your own. So we're going to start with that G again. This is my turn. Together. My turn. Your turn. Now, I'm just going to play first. And then you're thinking like a Baroque musician. We developed our bass line and memorized it. And now you're having to come up with a melody based on that bass line. That's how Baroque composers thought. And that's how Baroque performers practiced. They listened to that bass line and they would sometimes improvise on that bass line. So it's the way we're thinking, right? So let's apply that to a folk tune. I'm going to play a bass line that goes like this. I'm starting on open A. Can you play it with me? may be familiar with Greensleeves. It's a Renaissance piece from England, so it dates back before Bach's time. I'm not entirely sure which century. It may be 16th century or earlier, but it is an old tune, and it is harmonized with what in books 1 and 2 we would call an ostinato, because it repeats. It does the same thing over and over again, and that's an ostinato. But this kind of ostinato is a bass line, and it has a certain name to it because it's a popular one. And this one, this ground bass, is called a chaconne. And so a chaconne is just a bass line that goes down 4 notes. So you just played the chaconne while I played a melody. Now we can take that chaconne and that bass line and transpose it to, let's say, D minor. Let's try that. D. So D minor, chaconne bass. Okay, you could try it in G. What note would be your starting note? G, E flat, that chaconne bass and play it while somebody else plays the melody, and switch roles and get a feel for playing melody and chaconne bass harmony. You could also take that and improvise something else. And I'm not a good improviser, but I'll give it a try. Something exactly that you've never heard before, except in your own head. And if you don't like it, you're the composer. You get to choose what you like, what you don't like, and keep at it until you get what you like. And that gets easier with time. So when I was in a Baroque group, I've been in a Red-Haired Mary, the Irish band, for a number of years, and then I played in an early music ensemble called Knoxville Early Music Project. And in both cases, we were asked to improvise over some bass line or harmony. So it's a skill that I never learned growing up, but I wound up having to develop to enjoy playing with those groups. You can do that now. You have that for the rest of your life. So that's Greensleeves with the chaconne bass. Now, that's a folk tune, but we have compositions written that have the chaconne bass in them. And one of the most popular ones is called, for violin anyway, is the Vitali chaconne, which is a Baroque piece. And very like pieces that are based on a bass line, whether it is a chaconne bass line or a passacaglia or an ascending or a lament or a chain. There are a number of different bass lines that Baroque composers would use. It would start with a theme and then a variation or a set of variations. And this Vitali chaconne is that. It's about a 15-minute piece. But I'm going to play the theme. And the theme goes like this. Very, very, very beautiful piece. It's in G minor. So we know G minor chaconne bass, don't we? Let's play open G together, or a G on the piano like this. And do it again. I'm adding notes, I still have the chaconne. I'm still playing that. And so I'm going to play a recording done by a violinist named Delana Jensen, who is a wonderful, wonderful violinist that I heard for the first time when I was a girl. And she has had a marvelous career and is still teaching and playing and performing. So this is a snippet of a rehearsal of her playing this piece. And I want you to hear the two parts together. I want you to hear the chaconne and the piano part against the violin's part that is the melody. All right? I'm just going to play the theme of this. So that gives you an idea of how it's put together. And if you want to hear the whole recording, it's online. Look up Delana Jensen. And she has a Facebook page and she has her own web page, but she has recordings there, and this is one of them. And she plays the whole performance in that. So this is just a little bit of the rehearsal. So it's worth looking at, particularly if you're a violinist. It's one of those standard pieces. So we played our bass line, and for the Vitale Chaconne in G minor. So we've done a green sleeves, which is an A minor. We've done a G minor, but the next one we're going to do is in G major. And it's on page 57 of the textbook. Now, my eyes are old and tired, so I'm going to get out the larger version in the reading book too, so that I can actually see the notes. So this is a Chaconne in G major by Handel, another Baroque composer. It is scored for piano, 2 violins, viola, and 2 cellos. So it would be a pretty large chamber group, wouldn't it? But I'm going to play the cello 2 part, and tell me if this sounds familiar to you. G major. Does that sound like a Chaconne bass? It's not in minor now, it's in major, but it's a Chaconne bass. It goes down the scale. Okay, that's the cello 2 part. Now, my left hand in the piano part does that and adds some notes to it. It still has that, right? So we've got the Chaconne in cello 1, cello 2, no, just cello 2, and in the viola part. So Handel really wanted that Chaconne bass line to be heard. And everything else, the 2 violin parts and the cello 1 part, and certainly the right hand of the piano is different. So it sounds like this. So Chaconne bass. And then we have the second part of that phrase. This is just the theme. The second part sounds like this. Okay, so it's no longer a Chaconne bass on that part. What is the bass line doing? Well, I'm going to play the bottom notes of the left-hand piano and the cello 2 part, and it goes like this. What does that sound like? Do you remember our 1-4-5-1? Here's our 4 chord. Here's 4. So this is 1. This is part of 1. I'll play the chords so we can hear that better. So here's your 4. Here's your 5. And then back to tonic. 1. So we have both. We have a Chaconne bass, and then we have the 1-4-5-1. It's both there. So I suggest that you listen to the Chaconne in G major by Handel. And that theme, when put all together, has the 2 things we focused on in this lesson. So then there are a series of variations. We talked about how those variations often, theme and variations often accompany that chaconne bass or any kind of bass line, ground bass. So here's the first variation. This is Handel's way of improvising a little bit. Here's the piano part. Okay, so just a little different, but we still have in the cello part. Okay, and you can see the whole piece, second variation, third variation, fourth variation, in the reading book. But here's the beginning of the second variation. And here's the beginning of the third variation. Somebody else has the melody. It is the second cello and it's the viola part. So the piano is pretty accompanimental. Okay, and then we have the grand finale for the fourth variation. Everybody is playing the same rhythm, so it's homophonic. Still the same accompanimental bass line. Still that same chaconne followed by 1-4-5 chords. So that is worth pursuing. If you have these books, you can study that and see it as much as hear it. So that's your chaconne. And the final thing would be to then do a chamber piece that employs some of the things we just practiced. And I have, among other things, in my chamber book, this piece. So it's the Canon by Pachelbel. Most everybody has heard that one before. And you play it at just about every wedding. And the cello part in this is a ground bass. It's not a chaconne bass. It's more of a chain bass. But it still is a ground bass. So playing the Pachelbel as a group to perform, you can be exploring not just how the piece might have been constructed and performed improvisationally somewhat, but also the style. The style of that period was very different than what we have now. Baroque bows were shorter and were literally bowed. They had a curve in the stick, and there was not much with the frog, and it was extremely light, so you played it a little differently. And the violin or viola was situated on the shoulder comfortably and held with the hand. So none of this holding with your chin with a chin rest and a shoulder pad, all of that's gone. And in fact, I play now without a shoulder rest, and I think it's because I played all that Baroque music for a while. I got to really appreciating the naturalness of it. But at first, it feels a little funny because you're used to a lot of support that they didn't use. But you're not doing a whole lot of shifting. You're not doing a whole lot of vibrato. So you can hold it there and play your notes. And ornamentation's very, very important in the Baroque period. And I have in Musical Minds different ways you can ornament things to make it musically appropriate for that style. For the pianist, we didn't have pianos back then. It was either an organ, harpsichord, clavichord, some kind of instrument that had pipes or was plucked. So it sounded more like a stringed instrument if it was a harpsichord or a clavichord, and there weren't dynamics. You couldn't do a lot as a keyboardist with dynamics. And so everything was much softer, and there was not pedal. So if you wanted to connect, you connected with your fingers, and it was a light touch and very well articulated. So there was a lot of non-legato playing. So that kind of thing goes in with the chamber book and how to play these in a style that's appropriate. And that's this lesson. Now the next lesson that I will do for volume 3 is on dances and how those developed into sinfonia and sonata forms. And so we'll do some movement things for that one and some songs that go along with learning that style. I am not going to teach you the Baroque. I'm not going to teach you the minuet. There are enough things on video for you to learn how to do that if you're interested in it. I'm not here to teach you dance, but it's good to look at some of those online just to see what it was like. It was very balletics. So that's the next video. So thank you for being here, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.